everybody, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Anna, and Fantasy Expert is so back, baby. I know it's been, a while since I've done one of these episodes, and that is because, like I said, I think in my previous video, August is just one of those months where I have the less time because, my parents, they are on vacation, so we just spent a lot of time together, which means that I didn't have that much time to continue studying fantasy at the rhythm that I wanted to, but we are so back, and I've been reading, just like I told you, The Magician Master. Now, before I continue, I do want to remind you that in the Portuguese version, they divided the first book into two. So this is the second part of the first book in the English version. So I'm still not done with The Magician, and I have actually a lot of things to say. So when it comes to the world building, now we're going to have so much more information about the Tsunade people, the alien people, because Pug was actually kidnapped. Exactly, people. He was kidnapped, he was taken to the Tsunade world, and now he has been there, I think, for 4 years as a slave. So, of course, we're going to have so much more information about their society, their culture, how it all works, and all I can tell you is that it's horrifying. It's horrifying how they work, because you can clearly tell that they do not care about these people's lives at all, especially the slaves. They just think they're dispensable, like they're disposable. If one of them dies, you can always pick another one up, and that's how Pug feels. He sees, a lot of his colleagues, and that's one of the reasons why he doesn't even have a lot of friends. He doesn't really want to make friends because he knows that it's going to be short-lived, that either they're going to make a mistake, those people, even the Tsunade people, they turn their own people to slaves, and they believe that once a slave, always a slave. Like, there's nothing that you can do in your lifetime to climb up the ranks. That doesn't exist. You become a slave, you die a slave. That's what they believe. So Pug understands, like, okay, one of these people is going to make a mistake, or they're just going to die because there are no conditions to work. He's working in a swamp, so of course you're going to have a lot of insects, and some of those insects actually carry deadly diseases. Pug has been lucky so far because he hasn't been infected, but he has seen, some of his colleagues dying from a very horrible fever, and their masters don't do anything about it because, like I said, they are so disposable and so dispensable. They could just be replaced at any time. But not only that, not only do they think that the human lives or their own lives are, disposable, even the masters themselves, when they see the owner's property. So, for example, you do have, I'm going to say they're clans. I know they're not clans. They're families, okay? They are families, and of course, a family with a very important name, they own a lot of lands, and sometimes they go there to check, okay, is the production going okay? Are the slaves working okay? And even the masters themselves, when they make a mistake, they are so quick to offer up their lives because they believe that's the only way that they can honor themselves and, just ask for an honorable death, basically, by the blade. They're so quick to offer their life. It's actually insane. I was just like, wow, like, you just made a mistake. Why are you offering your life with a mistake? And they also believe that dying by hanging is the worst thing that you can do. It's so embarrassing. It's embarrassing for you. It's embarrassing for your name. And the gods, are not going to receive you well if you die hanging. And that is, the biggest fear of these people who are a part at the very end of the society. They are so afraid of dying by hanging that that's why they just offer up their lives. They're like, okay, let me kill myself, master, please, like, let me kill myself, let me die by the blade. And it really depends on the master to give, that mercy or not. So, as you can tell, these people are crazy. And of course, in this first chapter, we also understand how Pug is really having a hard time being there. Because although it has been 4 years, he understands that he's not going to, go back to his world. He understands that it's just unlikely that to happen, but everything that he sees that resembles his world, for example, even if just a few birds, he's just so homesick, and it breaks my heart, and it broke my heart to, just see Pug, how he was looking at everything and always think of Midkemia, always thinking of home, and knowing deep down that he was never going to go back. It was just, okay, it just broke my heart. I feel so sorry for that kid, because although he's not a kid, I think now, okay, it's 14, yeah, he's probably 18 or 19, so I understand that he's not a child anymore, but it's just so horrifying whenever you look, you just see home, and that's the only thing that you think about. And not only that, like I said, because these people are so strange to him and have such strange customs, it's so horrible to him, because he's just like, I can't have friends, I cannot make friends, I don't know how to make friends. He has learned how to speak their language, Tsunade, but he doesn't really know how to make friends because the cultures are just so different, and he doesn't really understand their mindset. Although he does meet a soldier from the family that owns the property, Hokanu, and he understands, okay, he actually seems kind of decent, and he is. Hokanu, for some reason, he is so decent. He doesn't take offense that easily. He doesn't, try to kill everyone just for the whimsies, oh my god, you looked at me weird, hang yourself, like he's not this type of person. So that is a breath of fresh air for Pug, and I was so happy to see that maybe not all Tsunade are awful. And not only that, but in this first chapter, we also get some foreshadowing about Pug's fate because, literally the title says, the magician, Pug has to become a magician by any means. And now that he's not being taught by Colgan, there is no one that's teaching him about magic. To him, being an apprentice is just it seems so far away, and it seems like it has been so long ago, but, it's only been 4 years. But they actually visit someone, in their free time, him and Lori, because he does make a friend, which is very, very nice, also from Midkemia. And him and Lori actually visit, this kind of, I'm going to say psychic, medium, whatever. And this psychic actually told him, I see you in a big tower fighting a horrible enemy. So we do see some foreshadowing to the fact that maybe Pug's journey to become a magician isn't over yet. And like I mentioned, Lori has become Pug's only friend, and he's only been there for, I think, 4 months, and he has learned the language very, very quickly because he is a singer. And Lori, I think he is much older than Pug. I think he's like 30 something, and he was also caught, unfortunately, by the Tsunade, and now he's also a slave. Well, it's unfortunate to him, but fortunate to Pug, because now he has a friend, and even Pug said, he has become the light of my days, because I actually have someone to talk to. I actually have someone from home that understands home, that can give me news of what's happening at home. And that is just priceless to Pug. But we also understand by this world building how complex, the empire is, and how it's run, and how it's so political, because you understand how the Tsunade are political people. They have an empire, they have the Lord of War, they also have the Emperor, and you have different factions. It's just crazy complex, and how everything just plays out. Even Pug is just like, why so complex? Why is everything so complicated? But even though it is complicated, these political games are also so similar to Midkemia, and Pug is like, you know what? There are times where we're not that different at all. But you also understand, despite the Tsunade, having so much pride and always wanting to win and never accepting anything but winning, they do not accept defeat. They are a very traditional people, which means that they don't like, progress. They don't like progress. They don't really, they defy it. They want to keep their traditions, and that might be the downfall for them, because you just need to progress, okay? Progress is inevitable, and you have to accept it. I understand they hold on very tightly to their traditions, which is, it's nice, it's good, but I do have a feeling that is going to be their downfall. And Pug doesn't only have Lori, because now he has met another Tsunade girl. She is a maid at the place where he went, because he escaped the swamp. Okay, he escaped the swamp. Hokanu managed to get him and Lori out of the swamps, and I think they're working for his family now, directly at the castle. And he meets a girl called Katara, and they just have something. They have a sort of fling, and I'm so happy for Pug. I understand that a lot of people were disappointed that Pug didn't stay with Caroline because she is the princess, but you have to move on. You have to move on. Pug has been in Tsunade world for 4 years. This man needs some joy in his life, and Katara actually likes him, and they are the same age, so I'm very, very happy for him, and he actually loves her. The feeling they have for each other is immense. And going back to the Midkemia world, we have Thomas POV, and we understand that, with his visions, like I said previously, we are learning more and more about, the people that rode dragons. We understand that they are very, very ancient, and they might be connected to the enemy that the Tsunade are running away from. So that is very important to know, and that's the only way that we're going to get, anything about their past is through Thomas's visions. But his character is also changing little by little, because he is kind of reincarnating as one of the people, the previous owner of that armor, and those people were not nice. They were not nice. They were conquerors, they were colonizers. They did not, like anything but themselves. They would kill anything just because. So Pug is actually becoming a little bit more aggressive. He's trying to control it, and he's having, some sort of difficulty. And you also understand, because it's been 4 years, that Pug is no longer that 13-year-old boy. He's not that joyful anymore, unfortunately. He's not extroverted. He's very, there's just a lot going on with Thomas, and I feel so sorry for him, because I miss how, just how joyful he was. He just loved life. He loved laughing, but because of what is happening to him and everything about the Tsunade invasion, he has just become such a serious person, and it's kind of sad, to be honest. And like I said previously, Thomas is with the elves at this moment. He's helping defend, the forest, because the Tsunade have, sent a very, very big force to invade the forest. And not only have they sent, soldiers, they've also sent their own magicians. Their own, I only know in Portuguese, so I'm going to say dark, or black cloaks. I'm gonna say black cloaks, apparently, but they're just the highest of the highest, when it comes to magic in their world. So actually, if you remember in the first book, we do meet, one of the greatest magicians of all times, at least from Earth, from planet Earth, from Midkemia. And he actually goes to the forest and he helps, because he does tell the elves, like, you're not going to hold on. They've sent, the very, very big guns. Let us just say it like that. They've sent, very great magicians, and your magic is not going to hold on if I'm not here. So let me take care of their black cloaks. And not only that, but we do see some foreshadowing, because he does mention, I have to be here. I have to be here because I think he can see the future. And he's like, the only future where you win and where Elvandar, which is, the forest where the elves reside, the only way it stays put and the only way it survives and you all survive is by me being here. I have to be here. This is fate. This is destiny. And not only do we get a confirmation that fate actually does exist in this world, we also understand that there is a bigger force coming. He also mentions, a darker force that is coming for the Tsunade people. That is why they are trying to run to our world. And he has to find some sort of way to, not only defeat the Tsunade, but also, defeat that big force. And he doesn't know how he's going to do it yet. And of course, then back at the Tsunade world with Pug, we discover, the Tsunade discover that Pug actually has a lot of power, because Pug meets one of the Black Cloaks, and the Black Cloak, he takes a great interest in Pug, and he analyzes him, and he, analyzes magical power, and he's like, you're coming with me. And so now Pug becomes one of the most important people in this empire, because in the Tsunade Empire, the Black Cloaks are seen as untouchable. Like, they are not bounded by anything, not bound by the empire. They're not bound by law. They can do literally everything they want as long as it is towards the empire. So what I mean by this is, if they are doing their actions and it's against the law, but it's to protect the empire, then the empire forgives. They are above the law. They are above anything and everyone, as long as they protect the empire as it is. And now, like I said, Pug has become one of the most, important people. Not yet, because he does start, with a white cloak, and he has to start training, and the training is so intense, because they actually delete all of Pug's memories, which is insane. So Pug doesn't know where he's from, what he's doing, and the reason why they do this is because they want to, test Pug's magical strength and magical ability without, all of the theory that he learned from Colgan. And he actually passes. Of course he does. He becomes a great cloak, and then ultimately he will become a black cloak, one of the most, powerful people in this entire empire. And it's just insane to see the training, because the training is very, very intense. Like I said, it's not only just, about deleting his memories. It's also about, almost dying, because he almost dies in several, tests in several phases. He almost dies. His life is always on the line, especially when it's time to become a black cloak. Like, that test is insane. That's when he learns everything about the empire. He learns everything, not just it's not just about that empire, it's about the planet itself. Like, he learns all of the history, how it came to be, how the Tsunade came to be, where they came from, the history of the empire. He learns about everything. He sees everything in those visions. It's actually crazy to think about, because back in the Midkemia world, if you remember, I said that people don't really respect magic, people don't really care for magic, people don't like others, they just don't like magicians. They're always seen as bad omen. People, have a lot of superstition towards magicians. They don't want, anything to do with them. That's why they are beggars. But in this world, in the Tsunade world, it's actually the opposite. And I just love that comparison and that contrast, how here in the Tsunade world, the magicians are revered and they are above the emperor, above everything else and anyone else. And in Midkemia, they are beggars, like literally beggars. So I think Pug hit the jackpot, because he would have never been able to learn magic, because like I said before, also, he was having a lot of difficulty in learning magic and practicing magic. And now in this world, they actually taught him, how to achieve his potential and how to touch into his magical abilities. He did have, some struggles in the beginning, but it was quickly overcome. And now he's one of the greatest magicians of all time. So this is all I have for you guys today. I've only read, a third of this second book, of this second part. So I don't have much more, but I will give you guys another update once I am halfway through the book. And I'm just enjoying this. I read this back in 2019 and I loved it. It was one of my first ever fantasy series, and it was what made me fall in love with fantasy ultimately. Now that I'm rereading it, I do see that it doesn't, hold up as much as I would have liked. It's not that it's bad by any means, it's not. It's just so classical fantasy, and it's so similar to Tolkien that you're just a little bit tired of it. And because I've read so many other great things, it just makes this series seem, a little bit more redundant, let's just say it like that, because it has been done before. But I still very much love this series, and I do think this is such a good way to start reading fantasy. So if you haven't read fantasy for some odd reason, okay, start with this trilogy. You're going to love it, okay? You're not going to regret it. It has so many familiar elements while still having, a lot of original elements as well. And I just love it. I just love this series. I love these characters. I love being back in this world, and I cannot wait to give you guys another update. have finally reached the halfway point of The Magician, so I'm here to give you guys another update like I promised. And we have a little bit more of world building. So for example, where Arutha is, because he's still at Creed, defending Creed, they have another war council. And in this council, they learn much more about the Tsunade politics, what is happening, because in the previous book, they actually captured, a prisoner of Tsunade. So obviously the prisoner is like, you know what, I actually have a good life here because I was a slave back in my world. Here I'm not a slave. I can actually climb up the ranks. And he has actually joined Martin as to become, you know, another hunter through the forest, because he does have a lot of talent for that. And he's very happy, you know, he's just living his best life literally here in Midkemia. So he's like, okay, I'm going to help these people. And he explains the politics and how the empire of the Tsunade work. There has been a very big change, or a very big shift, when it comes to the Tsunade Council. Let's just say it like that, because some families are aligned with other factions, and one of the factions, you know, it has become very, very powerful. So you are going to be expecting a very powerful offense from the Tsunade people during spring. So Arutha, obviously, he's like, oh my god, like, we don't have ways to defend Creed. Like, we've been defending Creed for 7 years, but if there's like a big offense coming, minimum 10,000 men or 10,000 Tsunade men, we cannot defend them. Like, we cannot defend our walls, we cannot defend our city, I will not be able to defend my home. So they have to make the decision, okay, we really need to go to Krondor, to the capital of the kingdom, to ask the king for some help. Like, we need to plead with the king to bring his armies back to Creed, because there's going to be a big force coming. So you do get to see a little bit more of world building in the Tsunade through these war councils, which I do really enjoy. And in this war council, you also see kind of how Amstrask, you know, the sailor that we met previously in the previous book, he is so proud, in the sense of he will not accept anything other but victory. He's always saying, you know, like, we are going to win. I will not accept anything less. I am not going to lose. I have never been defeated at sea, and I'm not going to be defeated now. They have to make the journey to Krondor through sea and by sea, but the problem is, because it's winter, the ocean is horrendous. You know, there's a lot of storms. Like I said, also back in the previous book, there's a lot of storms in Creed. So he's like, we're going. Like, we are going to make it, and I'm not accepting anything but victory in this place. And also Roland, which, you know, is dating Caroline, he says, you know, I have to go. Because Arutha told him, you have to go to your father's lands and prepare for the next Tsunade invasion. Because his lands are very close to Creed. So he's like, okay, I'll go during winter, I'm just staying there. And as he's saying goodbye to Caroline, he's like, don't worry, like, we're gonna have all the time in the world, I'm coming back. He ain't. We all know he's not. So yeah, we do have some foreshadowing here to the fact that Roland is not coming back. And I was right, he did not come back. Unfortunately, he is deceased. And I'm actually, you know, skipping to another point, but I wasn't expecting Caroline to suffer this much, because she was in love with Pug, and Pug was captured, so she lost him, and now she lost Roland. And I honestly feel so bad for her, because she was presented as very, you know, spoiled, a spoiled brat, and very mean girl energy, if we say it. And it's just so crazy to see how she has changed, how she grew, and how she's, you know, in just so much pain, because the first love of her life captured, her current boyfriend killed. And it's just like, wow, like, why are you suffering this much? I was never expecting Caroline to suffer this much, and I truly feel so bad for her. And during, you know, all of the situation and planning to going to Krondor, Amostrask actually finds out who Martin is. If you remember, I said that, you know, Martin, there's something off about him, in the sense of, like, people didn't really like him because he had special treatment. When it came to the selection, he was automatically selected. He didn't really have to pass the test or anything, or pass the ceremony. So he didn't really fulfill the tradition. And you could tell, okay, he's special. Like, there has to be something special about him for that not to happen. And there is. So you find out that Martin is actually Arutha and Liam's half-brother. So you understand that Boric, you know, before his wife, I think it was before his wife, he slept with someone and had Martin. So Martin, he actually knows this. He just doesn't tell anyone. He doesn't want anyone to know. And Arutha and Liam have no idea that this is the case. The only reason why Amstrask finds out is because when he sees Martin and Arutha side by side, he's like, yeah, you guys are the same. Like, literally, you guys are the same. I don't know how people haven't noticed it yet. It's just so crazy. I think it's because, you know, no one really expects that, or nobody was really expecting that, and that's why they just don't really make the connection. But Amostrask was like, yeah, you look exactly like Arutha, and you look exactly like your father. Like, there's no hiding it. Obviously, Martin does ask for secrecy, so it is kept a secret, but I do think this is going to play out, you know, in the future, once Liam maybe, you know, is called to become the heir of Creed. I don't know how that's going to play out, but I definitely think this is not the end for Martin. And of course, with the Tsunade invasion, you do have some politics happening here at Midkemia, because, you know, the king was paranoid and is paranoid, and rightly so, because there are a few people that are trying, you know, to steal his crown. There are a few people that are making their moves because of all this Tsunade thing. obviously the king is distracted because he does have to send all of his armies to defend the entire kingdom of Midkemia, of these Tsunade people. So yeah, other political forces are like, maybe it's time, maybe it's the time. So Arutha also has to deal with that, because when he arrives at Krondor, he quickly realizes, okay, yeah, they are definitely trying to steal, the king's crown. I think it's one of his cousins. It's his name is Guy Bastida. He is definitely trying, for the Krondor crown. He has imprisoned the prince of Krondor, exactly. And his plan is to marry his daughter, which is Anita, so he can, become the prince. And then if something happens to the king is like, you know what, you're the prince now, so the crown goes to you. So it's just this whole thing and this whole political thing, which I do deeply appreciate, because you cannot have, an invasion without these little politics happening, because people will always try things and people will always try and put their plans into action when, the best opportunity arises. And this is one of them. Although Midkemia is being invaded, it's still an opportunity to steal the crown. And when we meet Anita, because obviously she actually escaped imprisonment, and Arutha finds her, so he's like, okay, we're going to take you to safety. Guy cannot marry you at any means, by any cost. I don't really like their relationship. So what I mean by this is, I think Arutha, his feelings for Anita are so fast and happen so fast. I understand that she's very pretty, and they were supposed to marry, because I think I mentioned this before, where Pug encountered a little girl back when, the Tsunade first appeared, and she was like, oh, who's Arutha? Like, I'm going to marry him in the future. So they were set to marry. Arutha actually didn't know that. He was like, for real? Like, we were supposed to marry? He was actually very shocked. But although she is pretty and they were supposed to marry, I don't know, I just find it so quick how Arutha is just, I don't know why I like her so much. I don't know why I want to hug her. I want to comfort her. I don't know, it just happened way too fast in my opinion, but, it's a secondary plot, so I'm not really angry at it or mad at it. But like I said, the political tensions here are very, very, high, and there can happen, a civil war can actually happen, because if Arutha's father, Boric, finds out that Guy Bastidas, his cousin, is trying to usurp the crown from the king, he's like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. I'm going back with this entire army to fight Guy Bastida. So Arutha is just like, okay, we cannot tell my father, like my father Boric. He is going to learn eventually, of course, because news spread, but we cannot tell him immediately. Like, he cannot know about this, because otherwise he's going to come here with his armies, and the Tsunade are going to invade Midkemia. They are going to win. It cannot happen. Like, we cannot have a civil war at any cost. And I actually thought previously that Caroline, was going to be the typical princess, but she actually grew on me. I do like her. I do like her growth and how she learned how to fight. Not to, be a badass or to be, really cool. No, she learned because out of necessity. Like, she had to learn to defend herself. Anita is a typical princess, okay? She's a typical fantasy classic princess where she doesn't really know how to do anything. She's not always crying, but, she cries down and she breaks down very easily. She's kind of like a flower fairy. So if you do like the classical princess, Anita is going to be your favorite. And when they, I reached the part where they actually escape Krondor with Anita and they go back to Creed. And I didn't really like the escape because, Guy Bastida, of course, he's after them. He also saves his own boat, and it's a freaking war boat, so it is huge. It is humongous, and it catches up to their tiny boat in no time. And they just have, the luck of finding fog, and the fog is going to cover up for them. And then, obviously, the big ship is going to hit a rock and it's going to sink. So I didn't like how convenient it was, because even before, Amsterdam was like, oh, like, if we only had some fog, we could cover up, we could actually run away, it would be easy. And then the fog shows up and he's like, oh my god, how lucky I am. And it's just like, yeah, that's kind of convenient, I'm not gonna lie. So I don't really like that, and I didn't really like it, but it is what it is, so I can't really complain too much, but I just didn't really like it. So this is all I have read right now, and as you can tell, the world building, it's being done through a lot of exposition, and I actually don't mind it, because I like when the author, utilizes, for example, war councils to explain all of the politics, all of the movements of the armies. It makes sense that we are doing, like, some sort of, recap of everything that happened, a recap of everything that is happening, just trying to figure out and make conclusions. So I do like the way that he exposes the world and that he exposes the Tsunade politics and everything. So I do enjoy that very, very much. The story sometimes, like I said, it can be convenient in the way they escape things. But, I'm not too mad at it, I'm not too angry at it, but let's see how it's going to go. And I do like how he utilizes, different POVs. For example, Pug is now in the Tsunade world, so that's where we're learning more about magic, that's where we're learning more even about how the politics in the Tsunade world works. We have Arutha that is telling us all about the Midkemian politics, everything that is happening around Krondor, around Creed. So I do think the author is very smart with his POVs and with the way that he exposes the world building. And I am enjoying this very, very much, this reread, but I think the video is going to end here, guys, because otherwise it would be be way too long, and I don't really want that. So please wait for part 2. I don't know when that's going to come up because I do have a lot of things that I want to do, and I am quite busy with my life, so I don't know when I'm going to be reading the rest of The Magician Master. But please wait for the second episode because obviously the story is only going to get better. And that is it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and I know that Fantasy Expert, you know, has been all over the place. Honestly, it was a challenge of 6 months, and we're in October. Oh, not in October, but like almost in October, and the 6 months have, you know, they've flown by, they've gone by, and I'm still in phase 2. I don't know why I said I could do this in 6 months, but apparently I cannot. You know, life gets in the way, and I just had so many things to do, so many other projects that I also wanted to do, and that happens to me a lot. So it's probably going to be, you know, more of a 1-year project at this point, but I'm always going to keep updating you guys because I just love this journey. I'm loving to learn more about fantasy. I love seeing, you know, how authors really craft their work and how they utilize the narrative to expose the world building, to keep the story going, how they utilize POVs to actually, you know, inform the reader of things, how characters grow and their arcs. I've just been loving it all, and I really hope you guys enjoy these videos too, because I know not everyone likes educational videos, I know that, but I just really love filming these for you guys, and I love talking about it and gushing about everything that I've been doing, that I've been learning. So I do really hope that you like this video, and of course subscribe and like this video because it would really help my channel out a lot. It gives me motivation and validation to continue to film these videos for you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!